Hello, history lovers! Today we will be taking a look at the top 5 disgusting hygiene practices of Queen Elizabeth I. You may know her as the Virgin Queen who ruled England for 44 years and is considered by many to be one of the greatest monarchs in English history. But did you know that she was also really gross? That's right. Despite being the epitome of grace and poise, this monarch could get pretty nasty too. So grab your barf bags, sit back, and let's jump into it. Number 5. Blowing her nose on people. As a child, Elizabeth had a nasty habit of blowing her nose on people, and she never stopped doing it. In fact, she would often direct her servants to hold her handkerchief while she blew her nose. If you were unlucky enough to be near her when she needed to blow her nose, then you got the job of holding the cloth, or whatever she wanted you to use. This wasn't just reserved for her servants either. She would do this to anyone who was unfortunate enough to be close to her when she had a nose to blow. And sometimes she would uneven ask first, before snatching someone's sleeve and blowing her nose on them. The Queen was known for being extremely frugal and would reuse her handkerchiefs until they were absolutely filthy. A small price to pay for her delicious roast beef. The Queen ate like a king, although some may argue that she ate more than king. James I. Her obsession with cleanliness stemmed from her fear of getting sick and dying young. This was an irrational fear as she lived a long life and died at age 69. However, that didn't stop her from obsessively disinfecting everything around her. Not only did she have a lot of time and money, she also had a lot of phobias. This meant that not only did she have to keep herself clean, but everyone and everything around her had to be thoroughly cleaned too. Otherwise, she would come down with a fever and die, or so she thought. To prevent her death, she kept her bedsheets bleached, washed, and changed daily. She would also wash her face and hands multiple times throughout the day and demanded that all visitors to her court be thoroughly cleaned before entering her presence. It was not uncommon for her servants to scrub visitors' faces with harsh brushes to remove dirt and dead skin. She also mandated that visitors change their clothes, wash their hair, and cover themselves in perfume to make sure that they smelled pleasant. Since Elizabeth believed that disease was spread through smells, she made these rules to protect herself from getting sick. While this was probably a good idea, the methods she chose were rather unpleasant. Her physician once described the smell coming from her person as the smell of a stable of unclean horses. Let's just say that things weren't always fresh and clean around the Queen. While we're on the topic of smells, let's move on to No. 3. Reusing dirty water. The Virgin Queen wasn't exactly a fan of baths. In fact, she rarely bathed and would go years without bathing at all. The most disgusting part about this is that she reused her dirty bathwater instead of throwing it out and cleaning herself. If you've ever taken a bath and sat in your own dirty bathwater, you know how uncomfortable and icky that can feel after just a few minutes. Imagine doing that for years on end? Yuck. This might seem pretty crazy considering that Elizabeth was obsessed with appearing clean and pure. However, she really only scrubbed up before major royal events. Normally, her routine consisted of washing her hands and face with cold water and a cloth. The Queen's daily washes became more frequent as she aged. Later in life, she began experiencing aching joints and stiffness, which may have been a result of her never bathing. Baths were an efficient way to relieve joint pain, but clearly she didn't think so. Luckily for us, there are records of her bathing in wine instead. Yes, you heard that right. Instead of water, the Queen would pour expensive wine over her body to clean herself. She loved the smell of wine, so it must have smelled better than her regular bath water. However, this doesn't mean that she enjoyed bathing. Bathing rituals aside, the Virgin Queen loved a good perfume. Her favorite scent was a concoction of saffron, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and lavender. Even though she hated bathing, she was always covered in perfume. It's safe to say that she used perfume to cover up any odors that she couldn't stand. She may have even used it to hide the smell of her dirty bathwater. Since she spent so much time perfecting her fragrance, it seems like she should have used it to cover up her other less than savory habits too. Elizabeth had a large collection of perfumes and scents, which she'd constantly tested on her servants. While it's great to experiment with new recipes, it's not okay to test them on people without their consent. Talk about toxic. But Elizabeth's love of fragrance wasn't the only thing that got her servants sick. Moving on to number 2, poisoned perfume. Elizabeth was well known for giving her servants perfumes and scented oils as gifts. What she didn't tell them, however, was that The fragrances were actually small attempts at assassinating them. She was convinced that many people wanted her dead, and she was always suspicious of her staff, so she would give them gifts that she poisoned. She also liked to test perfumes on her staff, because if they got sick, then she knew that it wasn't the right concoction. However, she took things too far when she decided to poison one of her servants with perfume. When she met with French diplomats, she was gifted a vial of perfume called the elixir of the King of the French. She loved the scent so much that she told her secretary to take the entire bottle home and rub it all over his body. He happily obliged, but unfortunately died within a few hours after rubbing the perfume all over his body. The queen immediately blamed herself and was distraught over her secretary's death. She sent her condolences to the family and gifted them money for an elaborate funeral. The queen's advisors tried to calm her down and told her that it was likely a coincidence that he died after using the perfume, but she refused to believe them. Moving on to 1. Her dirty pets. While the queen was obsessed with cleanliness, she wasn't picky when it came to her pets. She kept dogs, rabbits, falcons, and monkeys at court. The animals roamed freely through the halls of Hampton Court Palace and slept in her bed. Yes, you heard that right. Elizabeth I slept in a dirty animal bed every night. She was especially fond of small dogs and often carried them around in her arms while walking through the palace. Fortunately, they didn't stay clean for long. Her small dogs would often bite people and then lick her face. And when she was done with them, she would toss them onto her bed, where the dogs would proceed to lick her face again. Then she would go to sleep, snuggled up next to her dirty dogs. The worst part is that she shared her bed with everyone in her court, including visiting royalty. If you were lucky enough to share the queen's bed, then you likely woke up covered in fleas and dog hair. Speaking of waking up covered in something, check out the description below for the top 5 weirdest facts about the queen's death. That's all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any new videos.